First, let me say that I'm the third generation here at Fort Street. My grandmother and my parents preceded me, and then I joined church, and then we've got two more generations coming up, Jennifer and Chris, and now Caroline and Eleni. So that would make 5 generations. I hope I'm still around to see that. I can't believe it. There are a lot of memories to recall, and I only have about 15 minutes left, if he left me any. I don't remember being on the cradle roll, but I was baptized in June 26, and I don't remember much about the primary department. I do remember it was a huge room downstairs. It had a little stage, and we had the little, I think they were green and yellow chairs and little tables that we sat around. I don't remember anything. Carrie McLennan I remember, but I don't remember any of my teachers. Same with the primary department. I don't remember much about the primary department. I was just too young. The memories have long gone. But I remember when you got older, you came up, and we went, the intermediates met in the small dining room, and the juniors and seniors met in the big church house. And actually, not the senior girls met on the balcony, and the fellas met in here, because they were not co-ed classes at that time. And we all sat around those little, I don't know, there isn't very many left, the little square tables, and sometimes we'd be too deep sitting around with one teacher. I had Mr. McKechnie for a teacher, I remember. I had Margaret Richter. My favorite teacher was Aunt Minnie, who was the church secretary. It was Minnie Ferguson. In fact, she and her sister raised John Huthwaite's wife, Janet. But they were my favorite. Aunt Minnie was just my favorite. And we did a lot of memorizing of Bible verses. And that actually what had to do with our Sunday school lesson of the day. And you never wanted to miss Sunday school because you got a reward, and I'll tell you more about that later. You got satin ribbons for special assignments through the year, which was mostly memorization and attendance. Our church picnic was held at the long-closed Babalo Island, and if you hadn't missed more than 3 Sundays, your reward was a free ticket on the boat. That was a big reward. My dad used to give my brother and I each 50 cents for the rides. There was 2 rides on Babalo and a merry-go-round, and that took care of the 50 cents. We got, which right up until we quit having church picnics, you got ice cream and the free ginger ale or whatever we had to drink. The boat ride was terrific. I mean, you couldn't beat that. If you didn't like rides, the elderly people would sit and enjoy it. And we always had the bleachers, the field, 1 or 2, and it had the bleachers, so if it rained, you could watch. We had all kinds of games, pie eating contests. Did you ever wrap your wife or your spouse in toilet paper? You each were given a roll of toilet paper and to wrap your spouse, and you were judged on originality and beauty, of course.
Or lack of it.
Yeah, or lack of it. 3-legged sack race. The women had the potato on the spoon race. My favorite was run. I don't know how far we ran, but cross the line, eat 3 soda crackers, and then whistle. Now, the first one that could whistle won the race. And for all this, you got ribbons. You always got ribbons. So that was great. I loved the Babalo. We had many mother and daughter banquets. In fact, Jeannie Lenormand, I think, had the last one where we had, our programs had cloth dresses on the mother and the daughters. You remember that one? Father and son banquets. My oldest girl and I did the toast to the mother and daughters, and you have done with our son the father and son toast. And they had the gifts were the oldest mother, the mother with the most children, and never could beat the Millhenches. They had the most girls, or the youngest mother, the youngest baby. They just had, and they weren't ribbons, they actually were gifts. That was always fun. And the entertainment, every other year they tried to appease the entertainment and entertain the children, and then the next year it would be the older people, and usually they got the tap dancing and all that. And we've had bird shows, magicians. I mean, we always had a lot of fun, and we'd fill that dining room downstairs. I wish we had them again. And then my greatest love in my life was camp. I could hardly wait till I was 9 to go to camp. My first counselor was Janet Huthwaite, who taught me that when you eat a piece of bread, you break it in half, and then you break one half, and then you butter it a little at a time, which I try to teach my kids to do, and not fold it over and ram it. Swimming, that was the best part, was swimming. And let me tell you, all my kids could swim because of Clear Lake. I passed my senior life saving, and that the American Red Cross came out to camp to test us. And then when I went to high school, there wasn't anything they could teach me, so I got to work with all the girls that were afraid of the water. So we always were in the shallow end, and they were afraid to get their hair wet or their face wet. So my swimming experiences were really, really good. Jen learned at Clear Lake, but then when we closed camp, and I don't even know what year did we close it, Don?
Early 80s.
Early 80s. She went to Camp Westminster, so her swimming experience was more with Camp Westminster. But we got another little fish coming up, Eleni, who is not afraid of anything, including the high dives. So, but you're not going to believe this. It cost $4 a week to go to camp. Outsiders paid $8 then, and we had a camp bank, which was the office right across from Ada's, and you could put a nickel in. We had a banker to pay toward going to camp. The boys always went as soon as school was out for a month, 4 weeks, and then the girls came the next 4 weeks, and then took us up pretty much to Labor Day. We had band camps that they rented to help raise money to run the camps, I guess. Mm-hmm. But you got ribbons, you got trophies. We had trophies for like the most improved camper. That to me was an embarrassing trophy to get.
Did you ever get it?
No.
Just check.
They had one for talking. I probably got that one. I did get the counselor trophy. In the first year out of high school, I took my vacation to go to camp to be a counselor for 2 weeks. I loved it so much. That was my vacation. I worked for Standard Accent, and I had 2 weeks, and I took it and went to camp. So I was kind of an old camper. But they had, you learned, we did a lot of Bible verses, memorization. Mm-hmm. And I learned the camp crest, which was like the boys wear on sports sweaters, called the CLC, and that was for learning 5 Psalms and then explaining what they meant to your leader or to a mentor that you had. I also got the Colonel George Medal, which was also more memorization, but it also included service. And I don't know what I ever did with that, and that was so hard to get. But I did have that. When I was 13, I started my confirmation classes with Mr. McDonald, who was our teacher, and at that time, he was an associate minister. We met in what is now Ed Kingan's room up on the balcony. We met there, and in 1940, I got my Bible. Nice Bible with my name on it.
In gold.
Yeah. So, in gold. That was in 1940, and just before I got a letter from Mr. McDonald. I always loved him. He reminded me of my dad, in fact. he wrote me a letter congratulating us that we were getting married. He lived in Florida at that time. I still have that letter. I remember going up in the steeple and holding the sheet music for the guys that pulled the bells.
Yeah,
Velvet
Yeah.
pulls.
yeah. Yeah,
And now I wish we had those bells. I wish somebody'd find out how to get them ringing. It's nice to hear them. And they used to play only at noon, I think, didn't they? When you were here, didn't they play just at noon? And on Sunday mornings. And they're still there. So I wish they were reading today. Then about 1948, Marcia's going to have to listen to me. Was it in 48, Marcia, we started Evening Circle? Shouldn't hear me. We needed something for younger women because the women hadn't really gone back into the workforce yet. So they couldn't come down for Women's Association because you had little kids at home, and who had babysitters in those days. So we started Evening Circle, and we used to meet at homes that could accommodate maybe 20, 30 women. Like Julie Green, I think we went to Lorraine Mano's house, Kay White's house. And I remember going to that. My mother belonged to the Women's Association. I used to love Mondays because that's the only time I could eat my lunch in school. It was 12 cents to eat your lunch, and the privilege of eating lunch. We had to bring a note, it had to be okayed by the principal. You got to help clean up the kitchen. Well, I love that old rubber scraper doing those. I don't know why, but I remember that. But every Monday I got to eat my lunch at school, which was, you know. The first year of Evening Circle, we studied the women of the Bible. I learned women's names in the Bible I didn't even know were there. Deborah, I mean, I don't know, my education must have been lacking. And then we had, well, we were just talking a few minutes ago, Teen and 20 Chapel. And Reverend Geard started that. And we actually blew fuses from the electrical instruments that these men played, the xylophone. We sit in the dark until they found fuses to get going. We actually turned people away at the doors. There was no room for people to come in and sit. We literally had to shut the doors, keep them out.
The others who were here earlier, a little bit about the background.
Well, it was, Reverend Geard had this same group, a group like this in Toronto, and then when he came over here, he was working on his Master of Divinity, I don't know, he was working on something. And he started it here.
yeah,
And it was jazz, it was contemporary music.
very contemporary.
You sang Jesus Love Me in a whole different beat. I mean, it was not just religious music, but I mean, well, Marcia can remember because she was here, I think, or were you in Spain at the time?
No, you were here.
But it was great, and you just got into it. I mean, there just was no
Yeah,
way
but-
you could stay out of it.
When you see Will Watson standing back there,
He was,
clapping his hands, you
he
know,
was
and-
so
and
stern,
Will
you
Watson
know,
was
you
about
were,
as staid as you're ever going to find in this church.
and we loved that. And then we had that for, I don't know how long, and it got so large and so popular, they moved it to Ford Auditorium.
Yeah.
And with that,
Well, it actually outgrew the sanctuary.
it kind of fell apart.
They were-
I don't
they
know
were
why they
drawing
had to
up
charge
upwards of-
admission.
Almost 3,000 people.
And you said that this was not just Presbyterian.
No, the
Oh, no.
priests, they come from Holy Trinity, the priests, they come with nuns. There was all kinds of people. It wasn't any denomination, it was just music. And they called it the Teen and 20 Chapel, which it was very, very, very popular.
In fact, the night they blew the fuses, the whole sanctuary went dark. Well, Jack Rokenshaw, smart that he was, switched over and started swinging Amen, Amen.
Oh, yeah.
And the kids got into it. Well, he continued that and continued that until Somebody called Detroit Edison. Edison came over, went downstairs, found that all of the main fuses had been blown, put new fuses back in, the lights came back on, the kids thought it was all part of the program, and they just continued singing until finally say, okay, that's it, the program's over, they all went home. And they all thought it was part of the program. No sweat.
It was fun.
But it was just, it was just a great night, and the place was packed. I mean, there must have been 1,200 kids packed in that sanctuary.
Kids.
Kids.
And adults.
I mean, mostly
It
kids.
was for teen and 20, sure.
They'd
Yeah,
come,
10
it
and 20
would be
shepherds.
like youth groups.
Yeah.
Like our youth group, we used to visit other churches, Holy Redeemer. We'd swap, we wouldn't swap, we would just merge together for our Sunday night youth group. Then there was the canteen. We made, the young girls came down on Saturday morning and we did the bunk beds, we changed the bunk beds, clean sheets. The USO provided all this. And then Mr. McDonald, God love him, he would go out and he'd come back with cigarettes. Because they would want to smoke a cigarette and they run out. And of course, a lot of them came in a little bit under the weather. And they would close the doors after a certain count. And more than once, it happened that they wouldn't have beds for the people that were in the building. And believe it or not, they slept on the 3rd Street side in the sanctuary on the back pews. And we'd have to, whoever, the men that worked at night would have to go up and get them up at 9 o'clock to get them out of the sanctuary before church started at 11. But it kind of grew from the cigarettes to the coffee, and then there was the donuts, and it just was a nice, everybody would read where they came from. I found somebody that had the same last name that I did, only he spelled it Matteson. And my mother said, invite him for dinner, so we had him for dinner, and he was a farmer kid. England sent a lot of their pilots to Grozil for pilot training. So we had a lot of English down here, and we had a lot around our table on Sundays at home, until one fella said he had great admiration for the German youth. Well, I thought my father was going to blow a gasket. So it was after that, he said, screen them. So this kid was came from a lot of wealth. He knew a lot of the British theater people. His family did.
Did you ever meet a pilot called George Bush?
No, I don't think he I taught Sunday school. Upstairs in the corner, we used to put the kids on the chairs, look out the window and watch the boats on the river when we were waiting to start Sunday school at 10 o'clock. Now you can't see the river for Joe Louis Arena. I was secretary to Modico. I have my certificate in here. And treasurer. And Winnie Pearson. Like Don said, we celebrated our 58th anniversary on the 29th last month. Dr. Otts married us, and all 3 of our kids were married by Bob Crilly, which was great. And all our kids were baptized by Dr. Otts, with the exception of our son. He was baptized by Chief Simpson, who ran camp, and we went to Monroe for that. Now we have 2 of our 3 kids all live in California. So on the 20th, we're going to have like a mini reunion. Hopefully we'll all be together this time.
Everybody's going to be there.
The airplane's going to be thrilled with Caroline running up the aisle, I hope. So that's about all. I know I've left out a lot of things. If you can think of anything you want to know about, I'll pick my brain. I'll try and remember. And if not, I'm going back to my biddy bench. So is there any questions?